All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. I'm really excited for today's topic because this isn't really something I get a lot of questions around, but it actually is something that I have conversations around consistently with clients and even actually potential clients or customers, right? Because a lot of people will come to me and basically say, like, Savannah, I don't really know what's going on. My marketing is broken. We'll start working together. They're implementing the strategy that we come up with and their income plateaus. And I'm literally looking at all the data. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What's happening here? And I'll ask them the question of, well, when was the last time you did this? Or did you implement this part of the strategy? Like, I literally had this conversation with one of my accelerator clients the other day. It was really funny. She was like, Savannah, I don't know what's going on. Like, no one's buying my course. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go through all your marketing and your sales data. And I get to her sales page and I'm literally like, these are not the edits that I gave you to your sales page. Like, because so many people were clicking on her sales page. So many people were clicking on her course. And I was like, what's going on? Like, these are not the edits that I gave you for the sales page. So you're getting a ton of people clicking on it, but they're clicking off because the messaging isn't speaking to them. Like, where are those edits? And she was like, well, I haven't made them yet. And I'm like, girl, we had this conversation literally a month ago. And she was like, yeah, you're right. I just haven't gotten around to it. And I'm like, okay, well, you're asking me what the sales problem is. It's that you're getting a ton of people clicking on your page, but the messaging on the sales page isn't giving them what they need. And neither is your marketing. And you're not implementing the changes that I gave you. So like, what do we expect? She was like, yeah, you're right. Made the changes. Boom. Sales are happening. So with that being said, that happens a lot more than you would ever really think, because most times when I have clients working with me, the biggest bottleneck after we start working together is their mindset, is their thought process, is how they're showing up, is how they're making decisions, is how they're looking at things. They're not doing it like a CEO. They're still doing it like somebody who is stuck in a 9-to-5, who is just the implementer, who's scared, honestly, to take a risk, even if they've already built a decent amount of success as a business owner. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, listen, I can give you the best strategy possible, but whether or not you implement it, whether or not you see results is ultimately up to you, because I can't do the push-ups for you. I can literally hold your hand, guide you through the entire process, but seeing the results is ultimately up to you because you have to put in the work, right? And a lot of that comes back to oftentimes the way, again, like I said, they think, process, look at things, act, behave, make decisions, etc. A lot of times what I see from business owners is that they are spending thousands on funnel builds, ads, team, and quote unquote high converting copy. They're showing up, they're posting, they're emailing, all the things, right? They're burning themselves out when it comes to their marketing. But it truly still feels like everything is thrown together and kept together with duct tape and blind optimism, a hope and a prayer, if you will, like I said in my last episode. So what I want to get real about is that your marketing is not broken if we have worked together. Your marketing is not broken. If you have even worked with potentially another business coach or a marketing or a sales strategist, right? Your marketing might not actually be broken. It could just be your behavior. Because the reality is that you're not lazy. You're not inexperienced. You're still operating like a scrappy solopreneur, not a CEO. And that misalignment is oftentimes why you are stuck making anywhere between 50 to 100K months and still feeling like the bottleneck, still feeling like you're just pressing up against that income ceiling over and over and over again, and you just cannot burst through for the fuck of it. Okay? So in this episode, I want to basically break down the exact behaviors that are keeping you from scaling, what it actually looks like to lead like a CEO, tangible shifts that you should be making with examples for your different business model, and the ripple effect that it creates when you step into that CEO energy. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I always like to preface these episodes by saying, if you are in the mood for a little bit of like a tough love Savannah today, keep listening. If today's just like not your day, that's okay. Save this one, come back to it, because My biggest thing is that oftentimes in order to change behavior, sometimes we need to be called out a little bit for our BS because it's holding us back. It's bottlenecking us. And that is ultimately what I do for my clients, for my potential clients. So that's what I'm going to do for you in this episode. But if you're not in the mood or the right headspace to hear it, that's okay. Again, save it, come back to it, but let's get into it, okay? Part 1, the biggest mistakes that are keeping you stuck. A lot of you guys think strategy is the problem, but it's actually the way that you are behaving inside of the strategy. So here are kind of the top 5 ways that I see business owners self-sabotage when it comes to their success. Number 1 is emotional decision-making. Now, I think that there is absolutely a place for emotions as a business owner. A lot of times for me, emotions are almost like a check engine light, okay? So if I have a specific emotion coming up around something, it almost to me is like my brain and my body's way of saying like, hey, check in with yourself here. What's coming up? So for example, when like a couple years ago, basically, I started feeling like I did not want to have the agency side of my business. Marketing felt difficult, all those different things, right? I've tried to launch a course before and felt the exact same way. Procrastination, I could not for the heck of it finish any of these projects. I did not like working with agency clients, right? Same thing with having like a massive team that I scaled things to last year. I kept having all of these emotions around it where I'm like, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I almost feel resentful towards this side of my business, right? Towards having a big team, all of these client fires, agency clients, creating a course, all these different things. And so to me, that was a huge signal of like, okay, I am probably one of the most consistent people that I know. I will show up even when I don't feel like it. I don't listen to my feelings, but the fact that these emotions are happening is a really great indicator for me to check in with myself and make sure that this is still really aligned with my values as far as how I'm scaling, as far as how I'm marketing, etc. Okay. So I do think that there's absolutely a place for emotions within your business. What I will also say is I think that a lot of people, and when I say people, I mean business owners, will use their emotions as a scapegoat to basically normalize them not wanting to push through things being difficult. Okay? And that one's hard to hear. So a lot of times I will hear people say, that launch didn't hit, something's off, I'm going to pivot. So you blow it off, you rewrite the offer, and then you pivot the plan. But in reality, you didn't have a strategy, or the strategy you did have when you were launching, you didn't implement because it didn't feel aligned, because launching is exhausting and probably not the right marketing model for you, right? So for a product-based example, you rebuild your Shopify site after an entire slow sales week without looking at your email flows or any of your data, right? Because clearly it's got to be your website. Or if you're a service-based business, you discount your signature offer halfway through your launch because sales feel quote unquote slow, even though the funnel is only converting at 8%, right? A lot of times, people will say, I feel like my audience needs to hear this. I feel like this is what's going right. I feel like this is what's going wrong. When in reality, we cannot base marketing on feelings. We have to base it on facts, because sales absolutely is predictable, but only if you know the right levers to pull. And that cannot be based on feelings. You have to base it in facts. You have to base it in data. Otherwise, you're just quote unquote hypothesizing on what your audience needs to hear in order to buy, rather than knowing. And knowing is what creates results, because then you can pull the right levers. Otherwise, you're just going to constantly be running yourself ragged trying to figure it out. So when it comes to using your emotions in business, please, please, please make sure that you are not making decisions emotionally when it comes to your marketing, your sales, how you're scaling, how you're marketing, production plans, any of those things. Again, we're going to come back to like what you should be doing instead, but that's the number one mistake I see. Number 2, delayed or fear-based action. This is something that I 100% can talk about when it comes to my clients. This is one of the things when I give my clients a new strategy that we have to work through sometimes the most. I will tell people, create more social proof, talk about your polarizing opinions. I'll say, I want you to show up in this way instead of this way. And they've never tried that strategy before. They've never shown up in that way. They've never talked about their polarizing opinions. They've never shared social proof before in their marketing. So they overthink every single move, right? You wait weeks to quote unquote be sure before launching or investing in something, right? You let past bad investments or imposter syndrome hold you hostage, okay? As a product-based business, this could potentially look like maybe in the past, you've only posted really pretty aesthetic photos of your product, right? You've never talked about the behind the scenes of your launch plan, the behind the scenes of your new product line. You've never talked about your founder story before. You've never showed your face to the camera. You've never talked about the impact or the solution of your product before. And it feels weird, so you just don't do it, or you overthink it and you don't implement because of that. Or a service-based business, you know your messaging is outdated. You know your funnel isn't working anymore, but you keep telling yourself that it's fine because it quote unquote used to work, which means you don't actually have to pivot your marketing efforts. All that is going to do is keep you stuck. Here's what I always tell my clients is that if what used to work was still working, you would be seeing the results that you wanted by now. And the fact that you're not seeing those means that you need to do something different, because you cannot do the same thing over and over again and expect the exact same results. That is quite literally the definition of insanity. Okay? And when you overthink things constantly, it stalls your growth. It stalls your ability to see momentum. And the other thing too is that sometimes the thing worth doing is actually the most uncomfortable because you've literally never done it before. And so if you had done it before, you would feel comfortable with it and you'd be seeing those results, but you haven't. So you have to get the reps in to feel confident, but just because it feels uncomfortable or it feels new doesn't mean it's not going to create results for you. It just means you've literally never done it before. You have to push past, again, those feelings, those emotions. That's literally just your body being like, hey, check in with yourself. Are we good? Is this aligned with your values? Yeah, cool. It's your brain trying to keep you safe. You have to power through that, okay? Number 3, over-optimization in the fucking weeds, okay? You're tweaking visuals, you're re-editing copy, you're swapping colors yet again. You're focusing on perfection, not conversions. And here's what I always tell my clients is that B+ content posted is better than A+ drafts that you keep rewriting over and over and over again. Because guess what? Your audience probably isn't going to know the difference between B+ content and A+ content. And B+ content still gets results, okay? And guess what? You're gonna post it, you're gonna see how your audience responds, you're gonna refine over time, you're gonna get the reps in, and you're gonna get better and better and better, but you're still gonna make sales along the way. If you don't post your content, if you don't get the marketing out there, and all you do is recreate it over and over and over again, you're not gonna make sales. So as a product-based business, this could literally be you're A/B testing 3 different shades of beige on your product sales pages, but you haven't optimized your mobile checkout flow. It's like, that is not the thing that we need to be over-optimizing. That nobody gives a fuck about that. They're not going to know the difference between you using sand and eggshell, okay? No one cares. It's not going to interrupt your brand presence. And guess what? You can update it as you go. But your mobile checkout funnel, that's the thing where if you're getting 90% abandoned carts, we need to fix that, okay? We need to prioritize that instead so that you can be creating sales versus brand identity. A service-based example, you're rewriting your sales page headline for the 4th time. The 4th time. And it all probably sounds the same, but your calendar or your application still requires 3 different clicks for people to book a call with you. And no one is actually booking calls. That deserves our attention. Again, not the headline of your sales page. It doesn't have to be perfect to work. It doesn't have to be perfect to create results. All right. Team abdiction or avoidance. You either don't delegate or you do it without leadership and then blame your team when it flops. So a product-based example of this would be you hire a freelancer to write product descriptions without training them on your brand story, and then you get mad when the product descriptions aren't aligned with your brand. You didn't set them up for success. You don't actually know what converts when it comes to your product descriptions or your messaging, and you're just expecting them to wave a magic wand. Or a service-based example, you have a team, but you still review every single post, every email, every document because they quote unquote never get it right. Guess what? You hired a team before you had clarity around what quote unquote getting it right means. And so because of that, they never live up to your expectations, okay? And here's the thing is that unfortunately, I've been there. I can speak from experience. In the very beginning of my business, was so busy and so overwhelmed. I hired a VA within my first year, right? Didn't know what I needed help with, handed her my marketing and was like, sure, get this off of my plate. Sales and leads dipped. I blamed her, but in reality, I just didn't actually know what ultimately would convert my audience into a sale. And to be clear, she was absolutely fantastic and still is to this day. But it was on me because I didn't set her up for success. Okay. And then lastly, half executing really good strategies. You start the funnel, you start the launch, but you don't actually finish it with consistency and leadership. So for product-based businesses, you turn on one abandoned cart email and you call it a freaking day. And then you wonder why people don't come back and buy from you. For a service-based business, you launch a masterclass, but you don't send out the replay, the follow-up emails, or pitch the core offer or the upsell more than once and then wonder what the fuck went wrong, right? You cannot expect the full result your strategies can create if you only half executed it. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode if you don't remember literally anything else. I need you to understand you could hire the best team. You could build the best funnel. You could craft the best offer on earth, but if you are still showing up like the anxious, inconsistent version of yourself who pivots every 2 weeks and micromanages your team, you absolutely will not scale. Because the best strategy in the world truly means nothing if the person executing it is too afraid to follow through, or too uncomfortable to follow through, or too skeptical to follow through. Here's the hard truth that I need you guys to understand. Some of you don't actually need a new plan. And when I say some of you, I mean the people who genuinely have an understanding of your marketing and your sales strategy. Some of you guys don't actually need a new plan. You need to stop sabotaging the ones that you already have. You need to stop shooting yourself in the foot over and over and over again and fucking execute. You need to remember that strategy creates scalability. Behavior determines if you actually get there or not. So now that you know the biggest mistakes and bottlenecks and self-sabotaging behaviors that I see with a lot of business owners, let's talk about what you should be doing instead. Here's what operating like a CEO actually looks like across mindset, decision-making, strategy, leadership, etc. Okay? Number 1, fast, informed decisions. I need you guys to understand every investment that I have ever made has not been a year-long decision-making process, has not even been a month or a week-long decision-making process. I have one call with someone. I have one conversation with someone, maybe 2 if we're talking about my team. But when I'm talking about making business coaching or consultant investments, I do my due diligence, I do my homework, I look into them, I ask all the right questions, maybe I talk to, a past client or something, right? And then I move forward. When it comes to my marketing strategy or my sales funnels, I don't sit there and twiddle my thumbs and think, I don't know, should I make that marketing shift? Should I not? Should I create this piece of content? Should I not? I don't know if I like this name. What if I should name my masterclass something different? Let's push the launch a couple of months for me to really figure out what the tagline should be because I want it to be perfect. Abso-fucking-lutely not. I'm coming out with something new this month in September. But then also like in November, for example, for Black Friday. And guess what? I made those decisions in literally 5 minutes. 5 minutes, you guys. As a product-based business, instead of constantly delaying this new style of content, guess what? You jump in full force and you test different pieces of content to see what works for your audience and what doesn't. And then you optimize it based on their response and based on your data. For a service-based business, you commit to a 90-day launch runway for your program without rewriting the offer every time or your sales page or any of those times that you feel resistance. You commit to it, you start it, you finish it, you do it, okay? Number 2 is executing even when it feels different. This is one that sometimes gets my goat, you guys. The most successful business owners that I know are the ones who are the most adaptable. They pivot and they shift with the times, with their audience, with marketing channels, with algorithms, right? They know that the only constant in business is change, and they welcome it with open arms. I literally don't give 2 fucks about what worked for you a year ago. Guess what? It's not working anymore. You're implementing the same strategy. You have the same funnel. You're on the same channels. You're talking about the same shit. And guess what? Your income has plateaued, or in fact, it's gone down. So what do we want to do here? Do you want to get a different result? Well, then guess what? You're going to need to do something different. Even if it feels weird, even if you thought that you would never do this. Guess what? The second you became a business owner in this day and age, you became a content creator. I don't care. Faceless marketing, talking about the fact that you're going to sell your product and not your brand and not show your face or any of your team members or anything like that. Great, you can do that. You're not going to see sales, but you can do that, absolutely. But if you want a specific result, here's the thing that I always say to my clients. If you want a specific result, you do not get to pick the process that gets you there. If you want to pick the process, you don't get to complain about the results or lack thereof, okay? Creating a specific result requires a specific process a lot of times. And if you don't want to follow that process because it feels difficult or different or uncomfortable for you, that's fine. But then you don't get to complain about the fact that you didn't see results that process creates that you said no to. Okay? Okay. So for product-based businesses, this could look like you stop relying solely on aesthetic reels and you start running back-end email offers with urgency and sales double. Or you start showing your face or talking about your founder story or talking about the impact of the solution that your product provides. Service-based businesses, you're used to quote unquote warming people up, providing value, inspiring people, motivating people, etc. But you try direct sales messaging for 30 days, solution selling, social proof, urgency, and you realize, oh wow, it actually creates sales way faster than waiting for people to DM you. What a concept. Number 3, you lead your team like a CEO, not a fucking babysitter. You guys, you used to complain all the time in your 9-to-5 about people who would micromanage, and now guess what? You've become that person. You don't get to micromanage your team because you set them up for failure, okay? And I'm very, very, very passionate about this one. So, service-based example. You train your strategists to pitch offers and stories using your signature sales psychology framework. So you don't have to micromanage content. You teach your marketing strategist how to identify what's working and what isn't, how to pull any marketing or sales strategy shifts that you need to be making based on what they're seeing. You give it a once-over, you approve it, and you move forward because guess what? You hired an expert, you set them up for success, and now you get to listen to what they're saying. Unless for some reason they're not hitting their KPIs, they're not hitting their goals, then it's a deeper dive into why isn't this happening? And then you have to support their growth. You have to support them learning how to do their job better because they're your team member, okay? You're not just here to have them make money for you. You need to support them as well. And you cannot expect them to create results from your lack of clarity. You don't get to run around like a chicken with your head cut off and be like, what the fuck creates sales? And then get mad that they're not creating the same results. It just does not work like that. Like, set your expectations properly, please. Number 4, you diagnose like a surgeon, not a panicked toddler. We're not playing operation here. Okay? Okay. So, product-based business. Your sales dropped. Guess what? You track page views, click-through rates, and abandoned cart rates before you make a single change to the product page or to any of your messaging or to your checkout page, okay? A service-based example, if your application's dipped, you audit the last 30 days of content for objection handling and buyer awareness, and then you fix those. Number 5, you regulate your mindset and trust the long game. Okay? If you're a product-based business and you had a rough month, guess what? You're not going to change your entire fucking business or funnel in order to create the sales that you're looking for. You know you've doubled your email opt-ins and you've built up a wait list and you trust the compounding effect. If you're a service-based business and a client ghosts you, or you just had somebody who's going to be joining, your service, and then all of a sudden they ghost you and they sign with your competitor, instead of spiraling, you use the example as content to attract a better aligned lead who joins with no objections or ghosting. What I need you to understand is that when you start operating like a CEO, your marketing stops living and dying by your mood. Your team starts moving without you. Your strategy compounds, so you're scaling without restarting every single quarter. Your content converts because it's consistent, not reactive, and you start behaving like someone who's building a $10 million company, not just reacting like someone trying to survive Q3. And yes, there's a difference. A lot of my clients, when they make these changes, when they start implementing, even if it feels weird or unfamiliar, or they stop basing their marketing or their sales on their feelings and their emotions. I had an accelerator client who literally stopped tweaking her funnel and started doubling down on execution, and she hit a $100,000 sales month in 45 days. I had a product-based business who finally hired and trained her marketing assistant properly, and guess what? Her orders tripled in 60 days, okay? I had a consulting client who stopped doing 14 fucking different things at once, and she locked in on one marketing strategy for 1 month. And she created 108K in sales in literally 2 weeks, you guys, with less effort than her previous marketing strategy. So here's what I need you to understand. Yes, sometimes your marketing and your sales strategy needs to be fixed 100%. But sometimes you have the right strategy. You're just not implementing it and executing and behaving and making decisions and leading like a CEO. And that absolutely will bottleneck your sales no matter what. Like I said, remember, you need strategy implemented properly with the right marketing production plan and consistency and the right energy and mindset in order to create consistent sales, or it's not going to happen for you. So I hope that this episode was helpful because, like I said, there is a 100% difference in the clients who do these things that I have versus the clients who don't, and the results that they see and how quickly they see those results. So if you have questions about self-sabotaging your own success or the right CEO behaviors that you should be implementing, I want you to DM me on Instagram because I would love to answer those questions for you. And as always, if you want me to chat about anything else in any of our podcast episodes, DM me on Instagram with the topic suggestions, and I would absolutely love to help you guys out because this podcast is really truly for you guys. So the more I know what you want to hear, the more I can give it to you, the more value I can give you, and the more impact I can create, which is truly the only reason why I do this. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I hope this was the little kick in the butt that you needed, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.